He smirked. She didn't blink when Elon Musk tried to shut down Jasmine Crockett with sarcasm on live TV. He didn't expect her to fire back with cold, unshakable facts and one line that the internet would never forget: the stage lights at the Austin Policy Forum, where harsh clinical 5 seats lined the platform, 3 tech moguls, 1 moderator, and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She wore a tailored navy blazer, gold earrings, and an expression that made it clear she hadn't come to play backup. Beside her sat Elon Musk. Leaning back like he owned the floor, legs crossed, fingertips steepled, he looked relaxed, half bored, the kind of bored that says whatever you're about to say, I've already dismissed it. The room, a conference center near Barton Springs, was packed with press, policy wonks, and a few celebrities trying to look inconspicuous. It was a big-ticket event: technology, freedom, and the future of policy. But people weren't here for nuance, they were here for fireworks, and they got them. The moderator, a former anchor from KTS in Austin, kicked things off by introducing the panelists with dramatic flair. Tonight, we bring you an urgent conversation about the intersection of tech power and democracy. Representing the voice of Congress, please welcome Representative Jasmine Crockett. Light applause, respectful but measured. Then came the intro for Elon, tech innovator, entrepreneur, and CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and Mr. Elon Musk. The applause wasn't just louder, it was enthusiastic. He gave a small wave and smirked. Crockett didn't shift. She'd seen louder rooms. The first 20 minutes moved slowly, like everyone was sizing each other up. The moderator asked softball questions about AI regulation and free speech. Musk breezed through answers with practiced indifference. One of the other panelists, a venture capitalist from Palo Alto, chimed in occasionally, mostly to agree with Musk. Then the moderator turned to Crockett. Congresswoman, you've been vocal about your concerns regarding large tech platforms and their influence over democracy. Care to elaborate? Crockett didn't hesitate. Sure, she said, clear and measured. We've seen platforms like X amplify dangerous misinformation, silence marginalized voices through vague algorithms, and allow billionaires to play puppet master in public conversations. There was a shift in the air, not a gasp. Not yet, just that subtle tightening that happens when someone says something they weren't supposed to. Musk turned his head slowly, almost theatrically. I see we're opening with conspiracy theories tonight, he said, chuckling. The audience laughed. Crockett didn't. She met his eyes, calm as stone. You can call it a conspiracy if that makes it easier to ignore, but we've got employees, whistleblowers, and data pointing to direct interference on your platform. That's not fiction, that's public record. Another shift. Musk smiled wider, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Congresswoman, I run companies that create jobs and push innovation. You run hearings that waste time. Who's really serving the public? The moderator jumped in to redirect, sensing the energy, but the tension was already built, and the audience could feel it. This wasn't going to be a polite exchange of ideas because Jasmine hadn't come here to talk policy. She came to confront power. But Musk wasn't used to being confronted, not like this. He tilted his mic slightly, leaned in just enough to signal dominance. Elon Musk had done this before, lots of times, against journalists, regulators, politicians. It usually played out the same. They'd poke, he'd mock, they'd retreat. But Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. The moderator tried to soften the mood. Let's talk about innovation. Some argue regulation stifles progress. Elon, you've said publicly that government interference can slow down advancements. What's your stance today? Musk looked directly at Crockett. Look, I build things, rockets, cars, AI. I don't see Congress building much of anything. It's easy to criticize from the sidelines when you've never created anything real. There were a few chuckles, a nod or two from the panel. Crockett folded her hands. Building things is impressive, sure, but building without accountability isn't innovation, it's chaos. And when your platforms enable harassment, spread lies, and underpay workers who keep them running, that's not progress, that's exploitation. With a shiny interface, the room got quiet. Even the moderator paused. Musk arched an eyebrow. You're blaming me for the internet being messy? That's rich. No, she said, I'm holding you responsible for the systems you control. Your platform suspends journalists for reporting facts. Your warehouses have been cited for unsafe working conditions. You champion free speech, but only when it suits your own narrative. There was the first murmur from the audience. The kind people try to hide behind hands and half coughs, the sound of tension cracking just a little. Musk's face shifted slightly tighter. He crossed his arms. You sound like you've read a few headlines and built your whole argument from there. He said, real-world operations are complex, easy to criticize when you've never run a company. Crockett gave a half smile. I run campaigns in neighborhoods where people don't have Wi-Fi because your company's pulled out. I've sat with families whose kids were doxxed online. I know what happens on the ground. And I read more than headlines, Elon. I read contracts, lawsuits, labor reports. The audience was leaning in now, not just watching, listening. Musk leaned forward. So you're against capitalism now? I'm against unchecked power, she replied, whether it's from a corrupt politician or a billionaire CEO who thinks laws don't apply to him. It wasn't even dramatic. She said it plain, like it was just truth laid bare, and that's what made it sting. The moderator tried again. Let's steer back to the role of policy, but Musk interrupted, voice rising slightly. I'm just saying, if we want to talk about power, maybe ask why we let people who've never held a real job regulate those of us who do. It wasn't subtle. The dig landed. Some laughed, others shifted in their seats. Jasmine didn't blink. You think this is about who's had a real job? Tell that to the Tesla factory workers in Sparks, Nevada, who don't get bathroom breaks without risking their jobs, or the moderators in Phoenix who have PTSD from monitoring violent content on X. She pulled out a paper from her folder. Here's your settlement agreement. From 2023, OSHA violations, labor complaints, whistleblower intimidation. I didn't make this up. You signed it. The room went completely still. Even the moderator didn't speak. Musk glanced at the paper in her hand. You came prepared, he said finally. I always do, she replied, but being prepared wasn't the same as being finished, and she was just getting started. There was a shift in tone now. The audience wasn't laughing anymore. They were watching, locked, and a few phones were out recording. Musk sat back in his chair, lips tight, fingers tapping his knee. He wasn't smirking this time. Crockett adjusted her mic. We keep letting people get away with things because they dress it up in the language of innovation, she said. But power doesn't disappear just because you wear a hoodie instead of a suit. Someone in the front row let out a low She kept going. You talk about building the future, she said, eyes still locked on him. But what kind of future is that if it's only safe for people who look like you, think like you, and agree with you now? Musk leaned forward again, voice harder. Congresswoman, if I censored everyone who disagrees with me, this panel wouldn't even exist. You're right, she replied, but this isn't about disagreement. It's about danger, hate speech, targeted harassment, false medical advice. That's not disagreement. That's damage, and your platform profits from it. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Musk fired back. You're oversimplifying things. Algorithms aren't perfect. We do our best. We moderate more than any other platform. She nodded, slightly sure, and yet just last month a woman in Tulsa had her home address posted because she wrote a thread criticizing SpaceX's environmental violations. She got threats. Your site didn't take it down for 48 hours. 48, that's not doing your best. That's negligence. Now people were murmuring again, not laughing, reacting, uncomfortable, curious. Musk tried to pivot. I don't personally handle content moderation, Congresswoman. I have companies to run, but you set the tone, she said, and when the tone is mockery, chaos, and cruelty, that filters down. He didn't respond. She turned to the moderator. Let's stop pretending this is about policy disagreements. This is about accountability. And the truth is, when regular people get fined, sued, or fired, they don't get to tweet their way out of it. But Elon Musk, he builds a new company and rebrands the last disaster like nothing happened. Now a few in the audience were clapping. She continued more slowly. Now, when your wealth lets you dodge real consequences, when you can silence critics with lawsuits and lay off thousands without blinking, that's not genius, that's privilege hiding behind disruption. Musk chuckled under his breath. It was forced. Then he looked up and said, you think government's any better? At least I produce things. What does Congress produce besides paperwork and gridlock? Jasmine leaned in for the first time. You know what we produce? Protections. We make sure people who can't afford lawyers still have rights. We make sure rich men can't treat laws like suggestions. And yeah, it's messy, but at least it's not built to serve one man's ego. Silence again. The moderator looked frozen. A staffer off stage gestured toward a clock. Time was running short, but the moment was fully alive. Now Musk looked irritated, rubbing his chin. So now I'm the villain for being successful? She shook her head. No, you're the villain for thinking success means you're above consequences. But Musk still believed he could flip the script. And that's when she hit him with the quote that broke the internet. Musk let out a sharp breath through his nose, clearly agitated. Now his tone shifted, less cool, more clipped. You're good at sound bites, he said, waving his hand dismissively. But the real world isn't built on Twitter clips or political slogans. It's built by people who take risks. I've risked billions. You risk nothing except re-election every 2 years. That landed a laugh from the VC sitting beside him. Even the moderator let out a nervous chuckle. Jasmine turned her chair slightly, now fully facing Musk. No theatrics, no grandstanding, just steel. You talk about risk, she said, slow and deliberate. But what happens when your risk becomes someone else's burden? When you gamble with the truth, with livelihoods? with entire communities and walk away richer every time he tried to cut her off. That's just she didn't pause. No, let me finish. And he did. For someone who claims to believe in free speech, you're awfully sensitive to criticism, she said. But here's the difference between us. You think money is proof you're right. I think accountability is proof you care. Musk stared at her, his face unreadable. The room was dead quiet. She adjusted the mic again casually. This time I know men like you, she continued. Brilliant, restless, hungry to be the smartest guy in every room. But somewhere along the way you started mistaking applause for approval and power for permission. She let that settle. Then as she looked straight at the audience, not just Musk now, we have a country full of people scraping by, working double shifts, losing sleep over insulin prices, watching billionaires shoot rockets into space, and complain about how hard life is for them. And then came the line, having money doesn't mean you get to buy your way out of accountability. There it was, people in the audience let out small gasps. One woman clapped instinctively before realizing no one else had yet, but that one clap opened the floodgate. Applause, not wild, but steady, organic, real. The moderator tried to cut in, let's keep the conversation moving, but the damage was done. The cameras were rolling. The internet was watching. Musk looked over at the other panelists, as if waiting for someone to jump in and bail him out, but none did. He straightened up in his seat, smoothed his jacket, and said with thin sarcasm, well, if you're done with the sermon. She smiled, just getting warmed up. More laughter now, but this time it wasn't for him. Crockett leaned forward one last time. Look, I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to make rich people feel safe. I'm here because people elected me to ask the hard questions, especially when the answers make folks uncomfortable. Musk muttered something under his breath, a quiet unbelievable, but didn't respond out loud. He didn't need to. The cameras had caught enough. The internet would take care of the rest. But outside the walls of that room, things were already moving, and neither of them knew just how fast this moment was spreading. As the panel wrapped up, the moderator rushed through final questions like someone trying to patch a boat already taking on water. The rest of the panelists offered generic closing remarks about moving forward and open dialogue, but nobody was really listening anymore. All eyes were still on Musk and Crockett. Elon didn't say another word. He gave the crowd a tight smile and a half wave, then stood before the panel. Was officially dismissed. His team was already waiting at the side of the stage, earbuds and phones out, eyes everywhere. He didn't even look back. Crockett stayed seated. A local reporter from San Marcos Public Radio leaned forward from the second row and whispered to the cameraman, did you catch that quote? The money won every second of it. The cameraman replied, without taking his eye off the lens. Backstage, producers from 3 different networks were already huddled, debating who could get the clip cleared and uploaded first. One of them called a friend at K. Ames in Dallas. You watching this, get it queued. Trust me, it's gonna blow out. In the hallway before Musk reached the elevator, a voice called after him, Elon, anything to say about the labor documents Congresswoman Crockett mentioned? He didn't stop walking, didn't flinch. His bodyguard stepped between him and the reporter with the practiced smoothness of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. Back in the conference room, Crockett was still answering questions from the moderator, now clearly rattled. She handled them with ease, sticking to policy, never taking another shot at Musk. She didn't need to. The internet had already decided who won. In under 30 minutes, clips from the debate were chopped, captions stitched, and sent flying across social media. Twitter, or X rather, was full of side-by-side videos. Musk rolling his eyes versus Crockett holding receipts. TikTok flooded with commentary, makeup artists, teachers, bartenders, even a former Tesla intern explaining frame by frame why Jasmine's response hit so hard. One clip from a local live stream, shaky but clear, showed her delivering the accountability line. With the caption, she said, what we've all been thinking. It hit 300,000 views in an hour. People weren't just watching, they were reacting. Some of the top comments under the trending clip read, Elon met his match tonight. This woman needs to run for president. Every boardroom in America should play this on repeat. She didn't raise her voice, that's what made it lethal. But not everyone was celebrating. Musk's loyalists flooded timelines with pushback. One influencer in Austin posted, another politician playing the victim. Meanwhile, Elon is actually building something. Crockett didn't respond, not online, not yet. She left the event an hour later without security, walking calmly to her car. With a staffer, a teenage girl in a UT Austin hoodie, ran up with her phone shaking in her hand. Ma'am, I just wanted to say that was brave. Crockett smiled. Thanks. What's your name? Jaya. Well, Jaya, I hope you never stay quiet when it matters. The girl nearly cried. Meanwhile, back at Elon's hotel suite, the mood was tense. One advisor paced. Another was texting PR reps. Someone had already drafted a rebuttal post, something about intelligent debate and misinformation from the political elite. Elon ignored it all. He was watching the clip again. Just that one part, having money doesn't mean you get to buy your way out of accountability. It looped in his feed again and again, but by the time he decided how to respond, the public had already moved on, and Jasmine's moment was too big to erase by sunrise. Jasmine Crockett's face was everywhere: clips on the morning shows, reels on Instagram, even reaction videos from creators who usually stuck to recipes and thrift hauls. It didn't matter what corner of the internet you were on, she was there. CNN ran a headline by 8 a.m. Texas Congresswoman challenges Musk in viral panel showdown. Meanwhile, Fox ran with Elon Musk targeted by left-wing Congresswoman in heated exchange. Two networks, two tones, but they were both talking about her. She'd stayed mostly silent through the chaos, which only added to the intrigue. No tweet, no press release, just silence, letting the moment breathe, letting people talk, and they did. Clips of her calmly presenting receipts from OSHA violations and quoting Musk's own posts became part of the media cycle. But what stuck the most, what people kept replaying, was how unshaken she'd been. She hadn't yelled, she hadn't insulted him, she'd simply stood her ground. There was something in that something people were hungry for. At a coffee shop in Bakersfield, California, a barista pulled up the video on her break and showed a coworker. She made him look like he wasn't ready for class, she said. Like she did the homework and he came with vibes. In Minneapolis, an 8th grade civics teacher showed the exchange in class, then asked students what accountability means. One kid said, "It means not being scared to say the truth, even if the person you're talking to is more powerful." A few miles outside of Pittsburgh, a group of retired union workers gathered at a diner to talk about their pensions and health care, but by mid-morning they were passing around a phone with Crockett's quote nodding quietly. "She's one of the few saying it out loud," one of them muttered. Meanwhile, Musk's team scrambled to regain control of the story. He tweeted a clipped response just after 10 a.m. "Not interested in performative politics. Let's focus on building the future." Short, sharp, safe. But the internet wasn't biting. They didn't want a deflection. They wanted answers. And something rare started happening. Even among Musk's usual defenders, there was hesitation. A well-known tech podcast host who often praised Elon as a genius tweeted, "Gotta admit, Crockett brought facts." He looked cornered. Another user replied, because he was by afternoon. The hashtags #Jasmine Crockett and had accountability, not arrogance, were trending globally. Talk shows debated whether this moment would elevate her political career. Political analysts tried to dissect her delivery, comparing it to historical confrontations in public discourse. But in East Dallas, at a small community center where Crockett had spent years organizing before she ran for office, none of that mattered. An older woman named Alma sat watching the clip on loop. She wasn't just talking to him. Alma said she was talking for us, and that was the difference. This wasn't about one moment. It was about what that moment represented. It was about someone speaking clearly, without fear, to a man no one usually challenges. It was about showing up prepared, not to humiliate, not to perform, but to hold the line. But Jasmine wasn't finished, and what she chose to say next would turn this moment into a movement. The following evening, Jasmine Crockett finally broke her silence. No production team, no backdrop. Just a 2-minute video from her phone, posted to her official account, shot from her home office in Dallas. She looked tired but focused, like someone who'd spent the last 24 hours watching a conversation bloom far beyond what she expected. She didn't gloat, didn't mention Elon Musk by name, no quotes, no clapbacks, just a simple message. What happened yesterday wasn't about going viral. It was about reminding people that no one is above being questioned, not me, not anyone. Accountability isn't a punishment, it's a responsibility. And I'll keep showing up with the facts, whether there's a camera in the room or not. That was it. No music, no edits, just her voice. Within minutes, the comments flooded. And this is leadership. She said more in 2 minutes than most do in 2 years. Run. Just say the word and run. And while she didn't announce any grand next step, the moment had already taken on a life of its own. By that weekend, the clip from the panel had been used in over 1,000 different videos, spliced into everything from political commentary to high school debate intros. At a high school in Topeka, a senior named Kelly built her entire speech around the concept of prepared courage, citing Crockett's moment as the turning point in her argument. In San Diego, a group of college students launched a podcast called Make Drop Politics, inspired by her now iconic quote. And in Fort Lauderdale, a mother sat at her kitchen table with her 13-year-old son and said, "You see her, that's what it means to speak truth without yelling." But not all responses were kind. Several conservative outlets labeled her divisive and theatrical. One even ran a headline that read Crockett's viral moment style over substance. But the people who were watching closely knew better. It wasn't style, it was strategy. She hadn't aimed to embarrass Elon Musk. She aimed to reveal a pattern of power, excusing itself from the same scrutiny it demands of others. And by keeping her tone steady, her language direct, and her facts intact, she did something very few people managed to do in a debate. She shifted the entire room, not with noise, with clarity. And that's what made the moment stick. Because deep down people are tired of noise, without answers, outrage, without truth, power, without consequence. Jasmine Crockett didn't claim to have all the solutions, but in that moment she reminded millions of people that showing up prepared, calm, and honest still means something, and maybe, just maybe, that kind of leadership still has a place. So here's the lesson: you don't need to be the loudest to be the strongest. You don't need to have all the followers, all the money, or the biggest name in the room. What matters is how you show up when it counts. With facts, with purpose, with courage that doesn't need to shout. And the next time you're in a room where someone tries to diminish you, mock you, or twist the truth to protect their power, remember what Jasmine did. She didn't back down. She didn't blow up. She just told the truth. And let the world decide if this story moved you, if it made you think, or reminded you of the power of preparation and voice. Make sure you're subscribed. We've got more stories that matter coming soon. In a world where power often overshadows truth, this story is a powerful reminder that real strength doesn't come from titles or wealth. It comes from the courage to speak up, especially when the system isn't on your side. Jasmine Crockett didn't need to shout. She didn't threaten, perform, or dramatize. Instead, she came prepared with documents, laws, and a calm but unshakable voice. That's something all of us can learn from. Seedling, if you've ever been told to stay quiet, remember this: silence has never created change, but truth, spoken at the right moment, can shake an entire room. Speaking head, keep showing up. Keep asking questions. Keep learning, reading, and speaking out, not to defeat someone, but to defend those who haven't been heard. Balance scale. This wasn't just a debate. It was a reminder that justice should never be a privilege. It must be a basic right. And when the system forgets that, someone has to say it out loud. Be that someone. If this story inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Talk about it. Act on it. And if you want to keep following stories that matter, stay connected with us. Because justice doesn't begin in silence. It begins with a voice. Maybe that voice is yours.